Hello, and welcome to the Argyle Financial Controller Leadership Forum. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our moderator, Philip Peck, Vice President, Advisory Services and Finance Transformation Practice, Peloton Consulting Group. We're really excited to have Philip with us and all the panelists for our panel discussion titled Goodbye Spreadsheets, Reducing Human Error with AI and Cloud-Based Planning. Welcome, Philip. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Nick. Greetings, everyone. I'm extremely excited to be moderating this session as I fundamentally believe the topic is highly relevant for the financial controlling and FP&A community, and we definitely have an outstanding group of finance leaders here today who will be sharing their insights and wisdom through the panel discussion. Before we dive in and do introductions for everyone, I'd like to share a little bit more about my background. As Nick said, I'm Vice President of Advisory Services in Finance Transformation for Peloton Consulting Group. Our company helps organizations drive digital transformation across their enterprise, where we provide advisory, consulting, implementation, and managed services capabilities across enterprise performance management, enterprise resource management, supply chain management, human capital management, customer experience, analytics, and data management solutions for the cloud. I've personally spent my entire 35 plus years career in the FP&A and finance domain area, working in various corporate roles, as well as management consulting roles, helping organizations explore the art of the possible and adopt leading-edge practices across their entire FP&A and finance functions. So for each of our panelists, I'd like you to introduce yourselves and share a bit about yourself. Madhuri, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you so much for extending this invite and this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Madhuri Raju. I have 25 years of experience in implementing transforming businesses, implementing technology and transforming businesses by through transformation and process transformation and business transformation in manufacturing and healthcare, in both Fortune 10 companies as well as mid and small size companies. Right now, I am working to influence the digital journey of companies as an outsider, as the founder and CEO of International Sourcing Solutions, LLC. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashok, how about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Philip. I'm Ashok Mantana. I'm founder and CEO of Chatwin. We're trying to bring AI to corporate finance. That's what I've been working on for a long time now. But I have more than a decade experience supporting finance from FP&A, controllers, tax, treasury, all the functions of finance.
Great, thank you. And Eugene, how about introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Eugene Spivakov. I'm a treasurer at a company called 6 Sense. We're a growth tech SaaS company in the account-based marketing space. Besides treasury, I also have a corporate FP&A function and also lead AP team. So I kind of wear a few different hats within the company. Prior to 6 Sense, I worked in treasury primarily in a number of publicly traded semiconductor companies. And before that, I was with AT&T in various finance roles. Again, excited to be here. Look forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Fantastic. And as everyone can see, the diverse backgrounds of each of our panelists here, I think, is really going to bring insights, experiences, and expertise to the questions we're now going to tee up here. So the first question, of which I'll go to each of our panelists and have them respond. From your experience, how has the finance function embraced new tools and technologies, including AI, over the past year? As appropriate, please go ahead and share some real-world examples. Madhuri, I'll let you go first on this one.
All right, thank you so much. Being from a technology background originally, and then foraying my career into finance, I can say that even pre-pandemic, I was noticing digitization and digitalization of the finance systems and ERP systems, integration of the different ERP systems, sometimes onboarding of the ERP systems, depending on the, on the path the company was on. So those things were well underway even before the pandemic. So post-pandemic, and even cloud-based solutions, right? The implementation of cloud-based solution, people were doing away with on-premise solutions and going more and more into cloud. Now, again, I say that with a caveat. There are some industries that are still predominantly on-premise. It could be healthcare for different reasons, for data privacy and security reasons and those kind of things. But I'm just talking in general that push to cloud has only been accelerated post-pandemic and during pandemic for reasons that are clear to us now. Now, with that, comes a huge mass of data, available data that is now all co-located in the cloud, can be extracted into some sort of a view or data lake that is then made available to the business to kind of make, for decision support, for monitoring their KPIs and such. So that takes us into a totally different space. That takes us then from there to what we call now AI ML, right? So with all that data we have a foundation of data that we've built up. Now we are looking at the different AI tools and ML tools, machine learning tools, to sort of automate some of our routine tasks like fraud detection, risk assessment, and drive some predictive analytics. So these technologies, like we've seen the growth, the surfacing and the growth of many of these technologies in the past 2 years, and the distributed workforce now, and the different, the demands of the business have only accelerated the need for that, for the growth of those technologies. And in order for us to even get to AI, the enabler functions to AI have been catapulted by robotic process automation. So the robotic process automation is a low-code platform that companies use to kind of come up with automation. Because there's not enough talent that can be hired to even put together the backbone for automating everything that needs to be automated. So first, the companies need to do their homework in determining what can be automated given where they are at with their digital footprint. When they have that, then use the robotic process automation to automating repetitive rule-based tasks that are data entry and reconciliation and report generation, those kind of tasks. And so those have become the privy of the RPA software that is now used. Those are like UiPath, Blue Prism, those type of software that can write or that can spring up applications in a relatively short time. You don't need a huge development team to write code to bring up an application to do any of that. And of course, even before the pandemic, we've had blockchain, we have distributed ledger technology. Those have just taken a little bit of I would say they're taking their own time to come to, the front line yet. But a lot of the advanced analytics, the RPAs, the AI, ML, that's become like the big rage of today. And of course, the chatbots, right? Personalized customer service, because during the pandemic, everything suddenly went online. And so we needed to have the manpower to offer personalized customer service to the customers of any company. So we needed to have that, and only the chatbots could keep up with that speed of demand. So those are some of the areas where I've seen, other than, of course, the regulatory and compliance.
Wow, that's a fantastic primer for all of us on the trends that you've seen happening over the past time horizon. It's interesting you included RPA, robotic process automation. In a prior session today, one of the panelists was speaking about work that his organization does through their FP&A function, specifically leveraging RPA. They're a very, very labor-intensive industry, happens to be the resort industry. And he was just describing how they're constantly looking for things that they can automate, streamline, and get the human side out of it to free up time for the actual practitioners to then deliver value for the business. Ashok, how about your perspective on that question?
So I agree with Madhuri on I think we see less hesitancy now moving to cloud, particularly in financial systems. It used to be a different case a few years ago, almost like 6-7 years ago. Everyone still wants to be on-prem, still not able to decide whether a SaaS system is better for them than having, hiring all these engineers and maintaining the servers to have the on-prem systems, particularly for finance, right? But now there's still a lot of companies on-prem, but when they are looking for upgrade, now they are looking towards a SaaS system. Basically, SaaS is like a cloud system. You don't have to maintain anything. All you get is a URL, and you just log in and you start using it, right? Now all the big Oracle, SAP, NetSuite, everything is a SaaS system, and it's much easier to maintain. I mean, if you think about it, as a finance team, why do we want to manage the system, the servers, and all the teams associated with it when we can focus on the finance part of it? So that's how the whole mindset is moving towards more of a cloud, more of SaaS, no code tools from the engineering intensive finance tool. Coming to AI, this year there's a lot of buzz around AI. So it's just getting started in terms of it. But AI has existed long before this year, right? Before ChatGPT came into picture. But what ChatGPT did for AI is that now everyone knows about it, right? And everyone knows the potential of what it can do. They have used it. They have used it to write their emails or write the whole functional design document, things like that. But they also have this idea what it can do in the future. So now a lot of CFOs are asking, now there is a tool which is doing magic, but can we apply that for finance and see if we can use it for automation, if we can use it for all these labor-intensive tasks, like let's say reconciliation. Who really wants to do reconciliation, right? Day in and day out. Can we just automate that part using this new AI magic? These are the questions that are being asked, and there are not many companies. When I say not many, there are few companies, and I'm talking about again mid to large companies who already took the first step in implementing this generative AI in the finance processes. They are hiring few consulting firms. They're using products, and just to see what is the potential of this tool in finance. The best way, as you know, is to go with a small pilot, integrate with your existing systems rather than changing the whole thing, and starting small with smaller use cases, with labor-intensive use cases, and then slowly trying to grab other low-hanging fruits in finance. That's what we are seeing right now, particularly with AI. But mostly it is coming from mid to large companies. I still haven't seen smaller companies coming on board with AI for various reasons, right? The perception of AI is that, oh, I need to get my data right first. It is true, you need to get your data right, or it is very expensive to do this stuff. Both it is. I think you need good data for any tool. For finance, that is more important.
Right.
AI can't do anything if you have bad data, so you have to get your data right. But at the same time, in new technology, you should start small. You should start using it because we don't know. I think if we wait for a few more years, maybe we'll lag behind all our competitors, right? Who have already started using it. So it's always best to start small and see where you can use it. And that's the process that is happening right now in mid to large companies.
That makes complete sense. And certainly in the work that my company supports, the notion that you clearly highlighted of start small, get a victory or get a win, celebrate it internally, find more of the champions and the advocates, build upon itself. And it's almost like a groundswell of momentum, but you need to get started. You need to start somewhere. And starting smaller tends to be a lot easier than trying to boil the ocean or tackle something too big. Eugene,
Right.
I mean,
You start small this year. You start small this year, or you can do big bang 2 years down the line, which is much more risky.
Yes, absolutely. Eugene, I know your perspective is probably going to be slightly different, but I'd love for you to weigh in and see what you're seeing and the work that you do and kind of your experiences.
Yeah, I'm coming more from a practitioner perspective. When I think about technology in general, I mean, technology has been implemented and adopted for God knows how long. It goes way back. It's been happening for a long time. In the recent past, I don't think anything's changed specifically with overall technology adoption. Companies are implementing new technology. They're looking for better, more efficient systems. They're trying to cut out manual processes, et cetera, et cetera. So that path is continuing. The thing that has changed recently is the introduction of AI. And now when we talk about AI, obviously, as Ashok mentioned, like, okay, AI has been here for a long time too. There's different types of AI. So some AI has been kind of around there. And the companies are adopting it more and more. I mean, things like, automating, sending out emails, right? I mean, even our company, we had a tool that allows our customers to automate emails. That's been pretty common, or sending out dunning letters, for example, if you're doing collections, things like that. So notifications. So that's been happening. I think that's getting more and more adopted. When we talk about more of a kind of robust as Gen AI and what ChatGPT brought to the scene and what everybody got so excited about, I'd say there's a lot of interest, at least anecdotally talking to people around here, there's a lot of interest within finance. And there's a lot of talk about it, but I just have not seen a lot of action yet. I think, and maybe larger companies have started adopting things and dipping their toes in the water. I think people just kind of trying to figure out what it can do, how to do it before taking the plunge. I mean, another aspect of it that comes up, it's like, okay, this technology is changing so fast, right? Right now, what we're seeing is more of the V1 of it, right? V2 is bound to come around the corner pretty soon, given the pace of the development. Should I spend my time figuring out how to use V1 or wait for the second version to come around next year that's going to be more robust and it's going to do better things for me? So there's always that dilemma, do I want to be an early adopter and struggle with the bugs that are in technology versus waiting a little bit and getting all the bugs worked out. But in general, I think there's definitely excitement over it from what I'm seeing, and there's definitely a lot of interest and people are trying to figure out. I haven't seen as much of finance applications as I've seen in other areas, such as, for example, writing or what they call ideation, idea creation, or even in graphic space. Finance seems to be having fewer applications right now, but I'm hoping that's going to change. One thing that is very, I think, getting adopted now, very promising and very helpful, is that a lot of providers that I'm seeing are offering co-pilots within their systems. And that allows finance users to be a lot more efficient. So if you have a tool that now you don't have to go chat with a chat bot and ask, how do I do this? Or click the question mark button to call somebody. If you can just talk to the machine and use their LLM function to guide you through things, or just instead of writing queries or pulling reports and restructuring, you can just ask the system an answer that you want to find, and it does all the digging for you. That becomes very valuable. It streamlines things, and you get those efficiencies, even though you yourself in the company is not implemented perhaps AI, but you're using a co-pilot of one of your vendors for their systems, and it makes your job a lot easier.
I think that last point, Eugene, is one, very important, two, very powerful, accelerating our ability to get to an answer or get to the end result we're looking for, and letting these emerging technologies, again, accelerate our ability to get there faster, free up time for the human element to come to the forefront. Next question, it's related, but it gets a little more into the elements that kind of the value proposition behind why we even want to pursue these types of technologies. How do implementing new automation processes, such as AI or ML or related avenues, help reduce human error and manual mistakes? Ashok, I'll start with you here.
All right. Since I'm an AI person, I'll focus on the AI and machine learning part of it. We have seen two things, right? One is the predictive analytics part of AI, and another is the generative AI part, which we have seen the ChatGPTs of the world. Predictive analytics part, particularly for controllers, I think there are use cases like anomaly detection, which is a huge thing. Not many people are using it. For example, a controller will be able to say, hey, can I see any anomalies in my 20 million journal entries for this month, right? Who can go check all the 20 million journal entries, right? So if a machine can go through it based on all the historical data, if it can flag even 20 different journal entries that look little abnormal to others, that is a great help for controllers, right? This is where, even though we have all these controls and checkpoints during journal entry part, a controller with a high level view can say, hey, okay, these 20 look a little different. Probably I'll ask my team to check, or I'll check what's wrong with these 20 entries. This is kind of ability that you can get using machine learning, the anomaly detection part of machine learning. And as the generative AI part is where you can ask system to do things for you. For example, you can say, hey, reconcile between my subledger and my general ledger. And it's a manual process that we have to do as part of month-end closing. If we can instruct an AI system to do it for us, it can go through, it can extract the data, it can match the data, and it can say, okay, everything matched, or these are the lines that has discrepancy. Do you want to do anything about it? So this is how we can reduce human errors, and we can also reduce a lot of effort that goes into it during month-end close. We all know how stressful for a finance user, for an accounting person during month-end close, right? Going through all the checklist of items, and it's never smooth. There will be something that will keep us awake, and we have to go fix it before closing everything. So those are the things that we can reduce as AI can take over more and more tasks. As I said, as controllers, they can use reconciliation. They do flux analysis, and making sure everything is right, anomaly detection. These are all real world use cases where it literally reduces all the human errors and also the effort that goes into all the processes.
I think great response. The elements you're bringing to the forefront, like the way you describe it, just the reconciliations of the subledgers to the general ledgers, the transaction matching and things. I think what you're describing is the potential for a dramatic reduction in the time spent, the level of effort, and you're knowing leveraging the AI and the machine learning, you're doing it right, you're doing it correctly, and you eliminated all that the manual going into it, again freeing up time for those analysts, for those people to be working on more value-added activities. Eugene, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of echo some of the stuff that Ashok said. I mean, in general, if I just put it in different words, I mean, how do you normally reduce error, reduce human error? Well, you check your work, and the next step, you ask somebody else to check your work, right? You get another set of eyes on it. Well, now with technology and machines, you can get another set of eyes run by the machine that doesn't get tired, a machine that doesn't mind tedious work to sift through a lot of details, right? So that's the advantage, I think, where it can really reduce human error by just having another set of eyes with much different capability than a human has. Whether it's 15 to 20 million journal entries, whether it's anomaly detection, anything in that realm will be very helpful. But if I take a step back, you don't necessarily need AI to reduce human error, right? We can use more primitive methods, and AI is just a more sophisticated method of a technological, use case for reducing errors. Let me give you a very primitive example. An Excel spreadsheet, you have, a bunch of numbers, and you add them up, and you want to make sure that the sum adds to the total. Well, you can put like a check somewhere, and a lot of practitioners, they have the Excel spreadsheets, and if all the numbers are equal and there's no errors, it's a zero, it's a check mark. And if it's an error, you might even say error. There will be some kind of value in there. So AI can just allow you to take that kind of analysis and make it several orders of magnitude more sophisticated and more effective. I would caution, though, that while AI can reduce some errors, it can introduce other ones. So you just have to be careful, right? Especially, depending on what kind of systems you have, right? We're talking about AI hallucinations and a lot of problems that it might bring, right? So you don't want to unwittingly introduce another type of error by relying too much on technology. So it has to be a balance, and you have to make sure you set it up properly, and you make sure that the human element is not missing in there. And the use cases, besides what Ashok mentioned, like reading invoices, for example, right? You get a lot of stuff in AP. AI would be great at reading invoices rather than have humans read all the invoices and then checking for all the entries. One last thing I want to think about when we talk about reducing error and kind of how we use machines in that effort. There's two ways to reduce error. You can check things one by one, kind of I would call a precision check, or you can do a high-level check. You can do a sanity level check. So I think machines will be good at that precision level check, but you still should have a human doing a sanity level check, right? Making sure that overall the numbers add up. And the reason it's important, right? If you miss something small, it might not be that detrimental. But if you rely too much on technology and you get a lot of pieces right, but the total somehow doesn't work, and it could have a significant impact. So I recommend always thinking sanity check versus precision check, and kind of delegating some of the sanity check more to the human element, and precision check where there's a lot of repetitive, very tedious work, outsource it to the machine to do.
Those are good insights. And I think it is important to always recognize the human element cannot go away. It's so important there, but now we're trying to leverage these technology in the best manner possible to streamline, to automate, to make efficient, to do things at an accelerated pace, but there's always going to be a human element. Madhuri, how about your perspective on this question?
Yeah, I would say, yes, AI ML, there is like Ashok mentioned, there is a fine balance between what the machine can and should do and what humans should do, right? So AI ML can definitely speed up the process of flagging some potential errors, but then recommend any corrective action to humans. Then we have the human element to go and take those corrective actions. A lot of times, even in in the spreadsheet land, you do have those spreadsheets created. And I remember back in the day, I would have all those reconciliation spreadsheets created, but a lot of them are, the bigger they get, the more clunky they are, and sometimes they just crash in front of you when you have a lot of entries. So sometimes there's limitations to that. So that's where AI and ML helps you with the complexity, with breaking down the complexity in in flagging those errors, like Ashok mentioned, and recommending corrective action to human being, who will then go in and make those corrective actions. The other area where I feel like AI ML can really bring in a lot of value is rule-based execution. So when you have workflows and you have certain rules, and you have certain guidelines, that you need to execute those actions by. I think the AI ML or the machines can take that rote action and accelerate it and get you your output quicker than a human would, because it's a very manual and tedious effort, like reading an AP or anything like that. It's something similar to that. So a lot of that can, and can improve your data quality that you're collecting, in your data lake. And you can also have way improved compliance when you have those rule-based execution, right? Because you have those compliance requirements, that are updated consistently, and they are present as rules or certain checks and, checks that you may have set up as compliance checks. I think those are areas where we can harness the strength of machine learning and rule-based execution. Now, also, that offloads a lot of human, capacity to doing more high-value tasks, right? I mean, you don't want, at the end of the day, you don't want those highly intelligent MBA grads going and doing this kind of routine rote-based tasks. You can deploy them to kind of more of a decision support that would, who would then take a look at output from all those reports generated by AI ML, and then make recommendations for bettering the business outcome. So I think that's where, we can go to that next level, where we would have to wait a whole cycle or two to even get those reports out. Now we can get it within the same cycle, and that makes a huge difference. And also reducing the chance for any errors, potential errors, if we have done it right? So I think the key thing, to Eugene's point, is we need to set this at, the right way. We can't have an imbalance. We can't have the machine go into a correction without a human checking if that correction is needed or not. So there needs to be a human oversight, but that oversight is an oversight. It's not actually doing it. So it reduces the time to actually get a final outcome, right? Whether it's a decision support artifact that would then lead to a better business outcome once we have that. And also, the other thing about ML, the beauty about ML is also it learns from feedback loops. So if there is any error that the machine learning actually, there's any error in the cycle, you can correct it, and it learns from its mistakes, and the next time you see less of those errors. Now, granted, there may be other types of errors, but over time, your algorithm gets better and better because there's that feedback loop with ML as well.
Those are excellent points. And I think you really hit at the crux of the value proposition associated with doing any of these things, that at the end of the day, we're looking to help our organizations make better decisions and to enable and provide the foundational elements such that our associates can leverage their MBAs or whatever education and background and experience and let them focus on the higher value added things. I'm going to do a quick pivot here because I think there's a very, very relevant question that came through in the chat box. And I think I'm going to have each of you respond, but Ashok, I'm going to let you go first on this. Are there finance processes that are the most common entry points for organizations to leverage AI to demonstrate value quickly?
Right. I think there are multiple, right? You can read data, write data, you can trigger workflows, you can automate stuff. All these are various use cases that what we can do in finance process. But I think the basic fundamental functionality that has that ROI is the discovery of data. When, particularly again, I'm talking about mid to large companies where you have multiple systems which has different granularity of data. For example, you have invoices level data in your subledger, you have balances in your general ledger, you have probably consolidated balances in your consolidation system. So you have these multiple systems with different granularity. The data discovery is a really big problem. Even though in finance we got used to it, we just remember what report to run or whom to ask to get those questions answered. And on the other side, think about when a CFO wants data, do you think any CFO of mid to large company will go into a financial system and run a report? They don't. They have to rely on their team members for them to go run a report or find that exact data that they need and give it to them. So with AI, data discovery becomes much easier, right? From CFO to the analyst, whenever you want data, very specific data. For example, you want all the products by their gross margin, right? And you don't have to go query multiple systems to get that data, pivot that data, and put it in a format. You can actually ask this question to your AI assistant and say, hey, I would like to see all my products, existing products in this specific area by product margin. Now it's AI's responsibility to go figure out where the data is, bring the data, and put it in a format that you understand. So the data discovery is a very big use case that I think we should all use it, because it's a fundamental of any finance process, right? Even if you want to do like this flux analysis, it involves to query data from various systems, put that data together, and build something over it, right? So data discovery is a really good use case to start with.
I think that's fantastic. And you're also hinting at an element around data discovery. Presumably, AI and related technologies should allow us to help us down that path to improve data. Like whether it's, to your point, pulling from disparate systems, varying levels of granularity, maybe some attribution is missing or not complete.
Right.
Leveraging AI and different tools can help us as an organization improve, identify the gaps, and so on and so forth.
That's a great point. It's not just what we have. AI will also help us discover the gaps, right? If your data is bad, it'll tell you, okay, this is bad. This is what you're getting right now. So we know where to fix it.
Yes. Madhuri, how about you on this one? Like, where from your experiences, what do you see as the lower hanging fruit, or the areas where you'd say organizations can seize the victory quicker around finance processes?
I think in addition to data discovery, it's also, I would say the precursor to data discovery is always, and as you mentioned, there may be gaps in the data. So in order to fill those gaps, there's always like this constant, I would say, looking at, what processes can be re-engineered so that we can have them digitized or digitalized to have more data collected on those processes. So right now, our hope is a lot of these processes are engineered, they're all digitalized, but there's still some rote tasks that are done on spreadsheets. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced that we have all converted everything that we should to, to get into an ERP software or anything like that. I think we still, in big companies, we still have spreadsheets. We still have Microsoft Access being used. So finding out, which ones are, where do we have more of those manual touch points that we still have lurking in our ecosystem, and convert them, digitize them. And I think the sooner people can do that, the more continuity there will be to data between the organization, because as Ashok mentioned, you only see, like, it's a heuristic bias, right? You see something and that exists, but what you don't see, you can fix. So I think the sooner the companies can determine that, the more data is unearthed, the sooner they can see the gaps. They can start re-engineering their processes, automate those, collect more data on those, and then start getting more and more data built up around the entire value chain, so that they can have this more of a artifacts or more reports for making their decision support, to help with their decision support.
Madhuri, you said only there are some processes in Excel. No, there are a lot of processes in spreadsheet, right? Even in big companies, they do forecasting in spreadsheet. Can we imagine it?
Yeah. No, I was being optimistic, Ashok. I didn't want people to say I'm beating them down. I was just very optimistically saying, if you have one or two spreadsheets, but I know where you're coming in. There's a lot, and I was shocked. I will tell you this about 7, 8 years ago when I made the foray into finance from coming from technology, and I went into a big company. I'm like, okay, I probably should be, I'll probably be downloading data from systems, and I'll be running this report, or I'll do this analysis, and I'll create these, these variance charts or variance reports, create this PowerPoint. But that's not as easy as it was. I had to start from Excel-based data. And then it was so archaic, I couldn't believe it that even big companies that are in global scale were still operating on Excel sheets. So Ashok, your point I know is well taken, and I would be, and then I also the impetus that you gave early on in this session, that, hey, if you haven't already gotten on the platform, I think you should really take a deep look and do it, because otherwise you'll be left behind in the competition. And that is going to be very true, because you do need that. See, ML and AI takes time to build. So it's not like if you have the data today, tomorrow you'll have a AI ML algorithm and bang, it's going to be like the year 2, you're going to have the decision support, coming from AI ML. You do have, you need to have that algorithm build itself over a period of time through feedback loops, and it takes time. So the more you procrastinate or more you rely on manual processes, the less of the data platform you have, the more you are actually setting yourself back. So I go back to Ashok's earlier point he made. That was a very valid point.
And I think for both of you, that is so important. And I'm glad you brought that up, such that the audience, it resonates with them. The picture in my mind is always the iceberg. We see what's above the water. We see, elements of what we see. It's what we don't see. In the organizations, Madhuri, as you're saying, and I work with many of them, it's scary how much they do in a manually oriented tyranny of Excel spreadsheets, various black box systems, or just shadow systems that are, you're not connected. You don't have that foundation of good data, pervasive data across the organization. So you need to get the plumbing and the infrastructure in place to be able to then leverage the power of AI, ML, and the different technologies. Eugene, I'll let you respond to this one as well, and then I'm going to turn to a different question. And maybe, Eugene, for you,
I'll try to be brief.
Sure.
Let me just say, kind of on this topic, there's a perfect world and there's a real world. And in the real world, you do have a lot of spreadsheets, big companies, small companies probably more so. Big companies, you have more systems, and not every system is easy to operate. So there's pros and cons of each side. I think where AI can help, and that's kind of echoing Ashok's point on data discovery, AI can probably scour various Excel spreadsheets. It can scour various systems and try to pull the data together. I think that's probably not it's going to take time to build, but that's where it can be very successful at putting what you need at your fingertips, because half the battle is just finding where things are. So that's kind of one low-hanging fruit. Another low-hanging fruit is that precision check that we talked about earlier. Let's say I'm putting together a board presentation, and the different numbers showing up in different places, and maybe these numbers either relate or maybe it's the same number. Well, it's a good, in a presentation, a deck, there might be hundreds, if not several hundreds, of various numbers and metrics presented. How do we know they're all right? Well, it's humans kind of looking at it. It'd be good for a machine to go and check it. So that's also a very low-hanging fruit. And then lastly, I like the idea of copilots. Using a copilot for whatever applications, even if it's Excel. Let's say you're still stuck in spreadsheets, and some people are Excel gurus, some people are more beginner level. You need Excel to do something. You don't know what formula to use. You don't know how to write the formula. Well, I mean, ChatGPT is there now. I mean, you can ask ChatGPT, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. What formula should I use? They'll tell you what formula to use. Or you can say it doesn't have a formula. Here's the VBA code to create a user-defined formula. That's easy. To me, that's a very low-hanging fruit, at least for individual, maybe not on a company level, but on an individual level, for somebody who's kind of stuck in a lot of these spreadsheets, to make their life within those spreadsheets a lot more manageable and more efficient.
That's great perspective. We have 5 minutes left, and I think we'll wrap up with this question, and it's more the human element of change. We had our original question, and then we had someone from the audience asking basically the same question. How do you address reluctance to change from employees in embracing the new technologies? Eugene, I'll start with you.
Yeah, to me, this is not a technology question. It's a change management question. So there's always going to be reluctance to change. In any organization, you're going to have a gamut of people. Probably on one end, you're going to have champions of new technology and early adopters. And on the other end, kind of you have these laggers, late adopters, and then outright resistors. So in order to have successful change management, you don't want to have to convince everybody at once. You have to leverage the right people at the right time, leverage the champions, leverage early adopters to prove that it works, to make sure that technology is helpful. Have them adopt it, start using it. Eventually, you're going to get that, maybe that group of early adopters, maybe 10 to 15% of organization. There'll be another 30% that kind of interested in doing it, but they don't want to do it unless it's easy. So you have to make it easy for them. So use the first group of people to see what went right, and then make it easy for the second group. Once you have that, I don't want to say critical mass, but a big chunk of your organization adopting new technology, it's going to be a lot easier to convince the late adopters. And then at some point, the resistors, you might have to just, it might be just outright, hey, we're switching it. No longer you're going to use the old technology. There's always going to be some holdouts. But if you can prove it to 80, 90% of your organization that the new technology is working and it's beneficial, the rest will fall in line.
Great insights. And to your point, this is all about change management. Madhuri, in your experiences, how do you address the reluctance to change?
I will piggyback right on Eugene and say, once you have showcased where and how technology has helped decision making and helped business causes, I think demonstrate your success stories within your organizations and point out what has worked well, and try to elicit some discussion around what are the fears lingering around with the people, right? What's the fear with the change? Is it the support and training that they would probably need? Or is it the lack of comfort with the new process? Or they're very comfortable with the new process and they don't want to change? Or is it like the fear of the unknown? So let's tackle that, with adequate support, with adequate training and communication, and then showcase what has worked well. And then once that has happened, I think over time, that the sea of change can be transcended slowly. Of course, it's not about it's not about stragglers. It's not about shaming the people who don't want to do it. It's about showing them. Sometimes there are skeptics, and it's about showing them how it has worked and what value it brings to the business. And then why we should go forward with it, with the other, with a greater scope. So because we start with a small pilot, so why do we have to expand it to a greater scope? So we show them why. We say this has worked, yes. This is what it was before, this is what it is now. This has altered the life of these employees. They are not displaced from their current jobs. A lot of them also have job securities. So show them why it has not displaced the jobs, but it has transformed some jobs. Show them why the new jobs are even better. And those are the conversations one needs to have and drive this culture of change.
Yes, yeah, it's the element of what's in it for me, that the individual. Yeah. Ashok, any last thoughts on this one?
I know we have a lot of questions still pending, right? But I think audience can connect with us on LinkedIn as well, and you can always ask to all the panel members. But quickly, I think even before the reluctance, I think AI, particularly with AI is like a complementary product. We're bringing into an organization to enhance the efficiency, right? Giving access to tools like this, there is a learning curve for products, right? It will take some time for finance resources to understand how do we leverage it. So leadership needs to start thinking about how do we give access to our employees for tools like this and let them figure out how to use it rather than forcing them to use it, right? That's how I think AI can really help us in finance.
That's fantastic. And I want to thank the three of you so much for your insights, your experiences, and wisdom throughout the discussion. I know personally I learned some great gems and some takeaways that I plan on incorporating into my career and what I do to support clients. Thanks for all the participants who joined the session. Nick, I'll hand it back to you.
Great. And thank you all for such an insightful panel discussion. This was great. And I want to thank everybody else who joined us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. This officially concludes the Argyle Financial Controller Leadership Forum. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. Have a great rest of your day.